In a world where political systems are constantly evolving and global challenges are becoming increasingly complex, there is growing skepticism about the effectiveness of the government-mandated green revolution. The UK contributes just 1% of global CO2 emissions, which highlights the need to reconsider the role of government in this issue. In this week's episode, we're going to discuss how the green revolution is doomed. This is my question right now. So is the green revolution doomed? We need to talk about the immense practical difficulties involved in the Conservatives' 10-point plan for Britain to go carbon neutral by 2050. Make no mistake, it will be impossible to achieve this. And even trying is proving to be catastrophic to the UK economy. And nowhere is this plan more evident than the announcement of the ending sales of petrol and diesel cars by 2030. There are 38.9 million cars, vans, buses and lorry on the road in the UK. We would more likely need to build over 10 million charging points around the country to cope with that demand. Never mind where we would get the resources from to build all these cars. So the idea that we could switch to total electric by 2030 is completely unrealistic. For a start, the minerals used in green technologies far outweighs conventional cars. So conventional cars use tiny amounts of resources, whereas electric cars use up to 10 times more resources than normal cars. And in a day where geopolitical structures are falling and crumbling and there's uncertainty around the world, these valuable minerals like cobalt, zinc, lithium, nickel, copper are going to become incredibly hard to find. The fact that copper, nickel, cobalt and zinc all come from Russia and the East is a very, very troubling position. And we have to ask ourselves, how do we get lithium, nickel, cobalt and zinc? We get these raw materials from open cast mining and mining operation, which generates an extreme amount of CO2. Now, we don't factor this generation into our statistics. We factor this generation into the countries that are producing these materials. We can see that the green revolution is not necessarily making the planet better. And it's starting to make me think that this is just a financial game to create new wealth, a new industry and keep an economy going. The green revolution would mean that we would have to completely upgrade all the electrical wiring in our houses, our streets, our substations, and transmission lines. To meet the demand, we would have to upgrade all our local electricity grids, which we would ultimately all pay for with higher energy bills. If this is really part of the plan, then government must be really honest with who's actually going to pay for all this. Who is actually going to foot the bill? Nearly half of UK CO2 emissions come from heating air and water in buildings. 27% in homes and 18% in all other types of building. Governments also have to be truthful in the areas of solar and wind. If our countries are capable in generating the sufficient power from these new greener initiatives, wind seems to be appropriate for the geographical area of the United Kingdom. Solar is not so good. Yet we're still seeing government subsidies pushing solar, when solar is probably the least effective green energy we can provide. Solar in the UK is a very negligible amount of power. You have to have an extremely large solar array to get the required power you need. And this would mean that we would have to change the way we build our houses. We have to change the way planning permission is achieved to ensure that every roof in the country is south-facing and is of the right geometric angles to allow for a maximum amount of solar. The roof space on a typical 3-bedroom house should fit at minimum a 3 kilowatt system. A 4-bedroom house should fit at minimum a 6 kilowatt system. A 5-bedroom house should fit at minimum an 8 kilowatt system. And by doing this, we would slowly build up our infrastructure. However, it would have to change at a construction level because solar is really expensive. And although it's cheap once it's installed and it's a single payoff, it is a very large upfront cost, which people can't necessarily do easily. Now, if you enforced it onto builders and builders were building solar and every new house had solar panels already installed when you purchased it and you spread it over your mortgage but you could offset the saving in your energy bills. This is the area that I'm talking about in the country. This is the area the country needs to go. But it's going to take time. We can't set a timeline. What we need to do is we need to prove it that it's cost effective and viable, and then we need to start implementing it over time. We can't force people to spend a lot of money on energy and create an energy poverty stricken country just to trace green tech. When the government talks about saving the planet, and we stand in Europe talking about how we're going to cut our emissions down to save the planet, I think it's very important that we should look at the actual main generators of CO2 emissions on the planet. This diagram clearly shows all the countries in the world that are major contributors to CO2 emissions. Now, you can see the big players. You've got China, 29%. You've got the United States at 16%. These are the two countries that would have to do the biggest changes to make any difference in the world's CO2 emission. The United Kingdom is at 1%. Us going carbon neutral by 2050 is not going to benefit the planet. It's not going to change anything in the countries that are above 5 should be looking to get down to 2 and 3 to save the world. The UK doing these initiatives to save the environment under the auspices of we need to do our part. Essentially, it's all a load of absolute rubbish because it's not going to change anything in the world. What we should be for all the doing is focusing on helping the countries develop quicker, get to the point where we are, and slowly making green tech more cost effective and more viable than the higher contaminant version. That takes time, that takes engineering, and that's how the world should that's how we should handle these situations. If you look at the UK as a whole, this is where we generate most of our CO2 emissions by sector. Residential is 7%, heating and electricity is 39%, transport is 30%, industry is 11%, and other services are 5%. Now, we can't cut any of these things very easily in the UK. They are fundamental, essential items to create UK life. But even by turning every piece of vehicle transport to electric is still going to not change the energy usage, because it's going to go from 30% of transport to 69% electricity and heat, because we still need to generate the fuel and the energy to drive the vehicles. So by changing what we do in the UK, and by making sure that we have no petrol cars on the infrastructure on the roads by 2030, and all these other things that the government talks about, is not going to change our delivery and our output. We are being manipulated on a huge level by government and oligarchs to create new industry, and governments are funneling our money on these government green initiatives to support industries in times of severe economic difficulty. This green revolution has nothing to do with the environment and everything to do with maintaining the current capitalistic nature of the world. The sooner we can acknowledge this and start discussing the real problems that are coming, nothing will get better. The world is going through a change. The world is going hotter. Absolutely. I'm not saying climate change is fake. What I'm saying is the world goes through changes. Egypt, in the times of the pharaohs, was a breadbasket of Africa. It was a lush tropical greenery. It's not anymore. Everywhere in the world is changing their temperatures. Some places will become more hospitable, some places will become less hospitable. Food growth will move from one side of the world to the other side of the world, and we'll have to change the way we trade. There might be a huge amount of immigration due to environmental catastrophe. However, with the world's decreasing population in certain areas like China, Russia, Great Britain, Germany, attracting the best people is not necessarily a bad thing. Ultimately, we need to rethink this green revolution. Power security is the primary objective in a modern world. We need to secure gas, oil, coal, solar, wind, nuclear, and hydroelectric power to be used in the United Kingdom. And we need to make that as clean as it is cost effective. Electricity needs to get as cheap as possible, as this will naturally push industries and people to use power, which means people will swap to electric cars, people will swap to electric heat pumps. People will swap if energy becomes cheaper. We're not focusing on the real need. The real need is clean, cheap energy. Now, you won't be able to get all the clean energy you need. You are going to have to use fossil fuels and even coal to get the power and the energy you need. However, the primary objective is energy security. Get energy security, change the way we see energy as it's an important commodity for life. We need to change how we build houses. We need to change how we lay out housing estates. We need to change the way we think. We need to change our prejudices. We need to halt our prejudices towards wind energy and solar energy and nuclear power especially. We need to look at the green alternatives to burning coal for energy, capturing the carbon and resending it back down underground, or turning it into a chair or whatever. There must be loads of scientific adaptations we can do, but we're not going to find them unless we create these plants and then push these plants to go as green as financially possible. The green revolution was created to grow economies and create wealth in certain areas, but at the same time it's going to be at the cost of the massive population who will not be able to afford their expensive energy because they're saving the planet. We need to think about this, and we need to make a plan on how we can solve these issues without creating energy poverty. involvement in this issue and how it is not particularly beneficial to us. The UK could increase its emissions to 2% and still not be a major cause of climate change. It delivers the cheapest energy possible. And like everything that I do on this experiment, I'm constantly trying to find ways to make things better, constantly trying to increase my understanding of the way the world is working around me, and trying my hardest not to get bogged down by my own prejudices. It is an incredibly difficult task sometimes, especially when you read something that you're quite passionate about in an area or an industry that you're quite passionate about. So my objective and my absolute goal is to open up conversations with people about these topics who wouldn't normally read the book or take time to think about it. And I'm hoping that through these little YouTube videos that I make, I can reach and connect with people who are also thinking about these things and who also want to make life in their world a better place. And over time, with the right amount of effort, I think we'll get this done. So thank you for watching this video today. Until next time, goodbye.